NFL Week 5 spreads and totals, best bets videos coming at you live. We cover every single game in the NFL, guys. We got a spread and a total pick for every game on the slate. 14 games on the slate. My name is Steve. Let's get after it and have a great week here in the NFL.
Well, my presence isn't real. It's another bad one like this is scale. It's straight fire. All my bets straight from. You're in the house that Cap made now. Straight fire.
As always, my friends, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe for me. Always appreciate that. We run these type of videos every single week. We cover every single game in the NFL, guys. We're locking in a great season. Last week, we ended up going 9-7 in both totals and spreads, so cumulatively 18-14 last week in the NFL, so it was solid. Obviously, we still want to do a little bit better, but it was certainly solid. We closed out the week pretty well there on Monday night as well. So it ended up working out. Like I said, it ended up being a decent week for us. Keep in mind, drop your favorite pick down below, guys, for this week. Let me know what you guys are playing, spreads, totals. Let me know what your favorite spread or total is for the week, guys. And we're getting ready to get after this today. So without further ado, my friends, it's time to get after it. It's time to go through these games. So let's start with our first game of the week. We got the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Los Angeles Rams on Thursday Night Football, guys, from SoFi Stadium. Spread here set to 5.5 in favor of the Los Angeles Rams. Total set to 46.5. Now, keep in mind, I pull our spreads from Pool Host because that's where I make all my picks in my Pick'em League. And then our totals are courtesy of FanDuel. As of whenever I go through and do the research online. So everything should be pretty close to what we have here today. But here, obviously, you got the 49ers coming in really banged up. We don't even know what receivers we're going to have for the 49ers. Purcell got hurt again, left last Sunday's game. Even Purdy is questionable for this game. The quarterback as well. Mac Jones is dealing with injuries. His backup. Obviously, defensively, they have a lot of injuries. Bosa's out for the year. Nick Bosa's out for the year. And they've been having a lot of problems now in defense. That kind of showed itself last week, particularly versus the run there with Travis Etienne having his way there versus the 49ers. So a lot of problems here for the 49ers going on the road versus a Rams team that had to come back in dramatic fashion versus the Colts to win that game 27-20. They trailed by 7 in the fourth quarter. Made a great comeback there to eventually end up winning that game by 7 on that long touchdown pass to Tutu Atwell. So question is, what happens here? I think it's pretty simple. I'm going to roll with the Rams minus 5.5 here. I'm taking the points on the Rams. I think the injury situation is just too much here. Rams coming in much healthier. You saw the way Stafford balled out at the end of last week. They finally got Tutu Atwell involved, which we've been talking about needing to get him involved and getting that speed loose for the Rams to kind of open up this offense. Puka Nakua's been dominating this season. The dude has like 10 catches every week. The dude's been going crazy. He had 13 last week. So he's obviously, he's just going nuts. His receiving line, by the way, is 7.5 receptions. Might be having to take that over. We'll see, though. Rams are also 3-0 last 3 games versus the 49ers as well. So I like seeing that. So I think the Rams are going to have a lot of success here offensively. I'm going to take the Rams minus 5.5. And I'm going to take that over 46.5 points. I think the 49ers can put up enough points, a couple touchdowns at least. I think the Rams run away with this one and get whatever they want on offense. I still think we'll see some points in this one, though. But as far as consistency-wise, we're going to see the Rams, I think, pull away in this one. So that's our first game of the week, guys. We got the Rams minus 5.5 on the spread, and we're taking the over 46.5 points here. Second game we have on the slate should be a doozy from London, guys. We got the Minnesota Vikings versus the Cleveland Browns in London, England. Browns 3.5 point dogs in this one. Total set to 36.5. Woo! How about that total? That's one of the I think that's the lowest total of the season so far. And honestly, probably for good reason. We'll get to that here in a minute. But the Browns last week played the Lions, lost 34-10. Now the score looked a lot worse than it actually was. The Browns were hanging in here for quite a while until the fourth quarter, and then, it did slip away from them there. Obviously, they gave up a punt return touchdown, threw a couple picks late, and then the score ended up being a lot worse than it actually was. But for the most part, they were pretty competitive, especially defensively in that game, which I think we sort of expected a little bit, right? Their defense is obviously very good. Minnesota Vikings last week pretty much got dominated by the Steelers most of that game, and then came back late there in Ireland to make it interesting. But Steelers most of the day outplayed the Vikings there in that win. So the question is what's going to happen here? Well, Browns are likely to start Dillon Gabriel at quarterback, so it looks like they're making a quarterback change. That was reported on either Monday or Tuesday. We should get Dillon Gabriel at quarterback here now for the Browns. And I honestly, I think I got to take the Browns in this one. Right now the Vikings with Wentz and second, back-to-back game here in over in Europe. They played in Ireland last week. I'm now playing in London. I think that's going to be tough. I really do. I think the Vikings are going to have a very hard time in this one. And Wentz, like I said, for the most part, did not look great last week till the end of the game. Then things started looking a little bit better. But by and large, the Vikings didn't play too well. And I think here versus Browns, I think this defense could give them a lot of trouble. I think the Browns can hang around in this one. And maybe Gabriel, kind of like Jackson Dart did last week for the Giants, maybe Gabriel gives this Browns offense a little bit of a jolt. I don't think it could be any worse. Like I said, Flacco just has not been having it. I think the defense will keep him in the game. And I think Gabriel, they'll set him up to try to avoid the turnovers, obviously, and keep him safe. As far as in this one. So I'm going to roll with the Browns plus 3.5, and I'm going to actually take that under 36.5 points. I do think this will be an ugly football game in London. London usually produces some ugly games, and I think you'll see one here. I hate taking unders at 36.5. It's very uncomfortable, but I think that's what's going to hit. It's like what we took with the Titans last week at 38.5, the under, and then ended up cashing pretty easily. So love it there, guys. We got the Browns plus 3.5 and the under 36.5 points. Next game, we got the Houston Texans and the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens 3.5 point favorites as of right now. Total set to 43.5. Big question marks in this one is Lamar Jackson get a start for the Ravens? Obviously, he left last week's game versus the Chiefs with a hamstring injury, so we're making kind of an early projection on what we think is going to happen. For the record, I'm just going to assume he's playing, just so I can feel really comfortable here with what I'm going with. So I'm gonna project Jackson to play, and obviously if he doesn't, he doesn't. Obviously this is a big game for the Ravens. They sit at 1-3, desperately needing a win. Same thing for the Texans. They also desperately need a win, sitting at 1-3. So you got two desperate teams here. You got a defense in the Ravens that is extremely banged up. I believe they're either down 6 or 7 starters right now. Marlon Humphrey's out. Medibakwe on the defensive line's out for the season. I forget how to pronounce his name. Medibuke. Anyway, he's a really good run stuffer, and he's out for the season. So they suffered a lot of injuries. Their defensive Roquan Smith is also out. So the question is like, are they going to be able to hold up against C.J. Stroud and a Texans offense that has also struggled this season? I think this is a great spot, honestly, for the Texans, guys. This defense is so banged up. I can't trust them versus anybody. I think C.J. Stroud, obviously, we know him. I think he's still got the talent. I think he'll bounce back at some point. And I think this is a good week, potentially, to do that. I think this is a spot where I think the Texans get right on offense versus a defense that is just too decimated. At some point, it just becomes too much. When all your star players are sitting on the bench, and you have to worry about, guys trying to learn, get caught up to speed on schemes and stuff. I think it's just too much right now for the Ravens. So I am going to take the Texans plus 3.5, and that's regardless if Lamar's playing or not. Now, obviously, if Lamar's not playing, this gets even better with Cooper Rush in there. But I do think the Texans are going to cover the 3.5. I'm going to rock the over 43.5 points. At the end of the day, like I said, I think the Texans will be able to score on this one. Ravens still offensively still have Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers. They're still gonna find ways to get it done. And like I said, right now I am still projecting Lamar to play. So I do like this over. So give me the Texans plus 3.5 and the over 43.5 points. Okay, our next game we have the Miami Dolphins traveling to Carolina to take on the Carolina Panthers. Panthers are now 1-point favorites. They were 1.5-point dogs. The line obviously moved once we got the Tyreek Hill news that he was out for the season. Total here set to 41.5 points. So the question is can the Dolphins survive without Tyreek Hill? In this game, yes. The big thing that I noticed Monday night was Darren Waller. He still very much looks like an all-pro tight end, right? Caught 2 touchdown passes in his first game back. Made a fantastic catch at the back line in the end zone. And he created separation, I think, like the third play of the game. He created great separation off the line of scrimmage. Just like it looked like the old Darren Waller. In fact, it looked like the one from when he played with the Raiders, not when he played with the Giants. So I think they can survive without Tyreek Hill. You still got Jalen Waddle, Malik Washington's pretty good, and now Darren Waller to go along with H.N. This offense is still going to have success, I think. I mean, Tyreek Hill is certainly a blow to them, but I do think the Dolphins offensively will be okay, and I think they'll be able to get this done. Meanwhile, for the Panthers, their defense has been horrible. Particularly, last week they were absolutely awful on the road in New England. And I just don't think there's a lot of talent with this Panthers team. I think there's much more with Miami. You got a lot more potential with the Dolphins. Panthers obviously kind of just offensively are blah. They haven't really done much this season as an offensive unit. Bryce Young did not take that step up. So with Tua and an experienced Dolphins squad, he's still got Jalen Waddle. This offense is still going to be able to move the ball. I think the Dolphins will have success. And I think they'll be able to hold the Panthers down. I don't see the Panthers really scoring too much in this one. So I am going to roll with the Dolphins +1. And I am going to take that under 41.5 points. I just don't think the Panthers are going to score much. I think the Dolphins are going to do fine. I think this could be 31-7. I think it could be 31-0. I really do. I think the Panthers are going to just have a lot of trouble offensively. And despite the Dolphins not being a great defensive team right now, I still don't see I just don't see the Panthers offensively getting it together. I just don't see it happening. So give me Dolphins +1 and the under 41.5 points. Next game we have on tap, we have the Las Vegas Raiders at the Indianapolis Colts. Colts are 6.5-point favorites. Total set to 47.5 points here. So do the Raiders have a bounce back in them here? Does Geno get things going? I keep telling myself week to week, Geno has to play better, and he hasn't. He played terrible in Washington, played terrible last week versus Bears, threw another 3 picks. So I can't give him that credibility right now until you actually see him play better. And going on the road versus this Colts team, which has been fantastic this season, really on both sides of the ball. The defense has been good. Their offense has been great as well. If not for a few little mishap plays, the Colts would be sitting at 4-0 right now. Last week, you guys will recall, Adonai Mitchell, their wide receiver, had a long touchdown catch versus the Rams. That was not because he fumbled the ball at the 1 by just sticking his hand out and fumbling the ball through the back of the end zone, which obviously was a huge play in the game. Ended up making a big difference. And then obviously they went on to end up losing that game, in the last score with the Rams. But we know the Rams are a great team. And I think the Colts are now too. I could give it to the Colts. We've seen enough from them now to say, Danny Jones obviously has turned his career around. He looks fantastic with the Colts. And this defense looks pretty solid as well. The offensive line looks great. Jonathan Taylor looks great. There's a lot to like in Indianapolis. Meanwhile, for the Raiders, what do we got from the Raiders at this point? 1-3, loss at home to the Bears. Geno's throwing picks all over the place. They haven't gotten it together yet. They're going on the road to take on this Colts team that, like I said, is going to be looking to bounce back after that tough loss. Give me the Colts -6.5 and give me the over 47.5 points. I still think we'll see a lot of scoring in this one. Ashton Genty played great last week, so I still think the Raiders will be able to score somewhat, but by and large, I still think this is going to be a lot of Colts, a lot of offense from the Colts in particular. And I think the Colts cover the 6.5 and the over 47.5 hits. Next game we have on tap, we got the New York Giants taking on the New Orleans Saints. Saints are 1-point favorites. Total here set to 41.5. This is another line that once again flipped. I believe the Giants were favored in this one initially. Now we got the Saints favored. Malik Neighbors obviously out for the season with that torn ACL from last week. That was really the big. You want to talk about big news from last week? It was really the injuries and the penalties. If you guys were watching NFL games last week, you saw a lot of laundry on the field, and you saw a bunch of torn ACLs. That was really the story from week 4, especially on key players there. So it was honestly a tough weekend to watch. I was very frustrated watching Monday Night Football. I almost had to turn it off. I was live streaming it, and I wanted to turn it off. It was awful. It's like illegal formations every other play. But as far as this game goes, you got Jackson Dart making his first road start. You got Spencer Rattler coming back home after a couple of tough road losses. So the question is, can Jackson Dart have success in the Superdome versus the Saints in a very tough place to play? I'm going to say no. You can't be down Malik Neighbors here and expect Jackson Dart to have a lot of success. This is already a Giants offense that has obviously had its fair share of issues, either protecting, receivers getting open, so on and so forth. The only team they have really had success with versus this year was the Cowboys. And here versus the Saints. Saints defense actually played pretty good versus Buffalo last week. I was very surprised. Their defense stepped up on the road and almost got them in position really to win that game. And they just made some, they just couldn't quite have the consistency offensively versus the Bills to make it happen there at the end. Saints definitely gave the Bills a scare though last week. So I think the Saints coming back home with Rattler. Rattler's experienced now, and honestly, he is playing better. I got to give him his flowers a little bit. Rattler really hasn't played that bad of late, despite some of the scores that they've had. But at home, the Saints have been competitive this season. They weren't good in Seattle, but outside of that, they have been competitive in every game. So I'm going to take the Saints -1 here. I think they win. And I'm going to take the under 41.5 points. It's still going to be an ugly football game. I'm not going to give Rattler that much credit. Dart's going to really struggle below. First road start, I think it's going to be tough for Jackson Dart. And obviously no Malik Neighbors now. You take the explosiveness right out of this game. With Malik Neighbors, any potential for an over just goes out the window. So give me the Saints -1 and the under 41.5 points. Next game, we have the Dallas Cowboys traveling to New York to take on the New York Jets. Jets are 2.5-point dogs. Total set to 46.5. So obviously we saw the Cowboys tie with the Packers last week. Probably the best game in the NFL season, 40-40. That game going the full distance and ended up obviously there in a tie. Offensively, Dak Prescott, you got to give him his flowers. He's probably playing the best at the quarterback position so far this season. I said it was Herbert last week, but then obviously, they played at the Giants. I kind of have to change my opinion a little bit there now. Just with what Dak is doing, given the CeeDee Lamb situation and what he did versus Green Bay was incredible. Some of the throws he was making down the field, to Tolbert, to Pickens, to Ferguson. He was locked in. And he's really been playing that way the whole season. You cannot put anything on Dak this season. He has been phenomenal. No fault of Dak Prescott this year. He's been absolutely phenomenal. So here they take their show on the road to take on the Jets, who their defense just looks horrible this season. It started in week 1 versus the Steelers when Rodgers threw 4 touchdowns. And then last week, before Tyreek Hill got hurt and he was done for the season, Tyreek Hill's running free in that secondary. So I think, once again, you're going to see more of that. I think the Cowboys are going to have a lot of success. Meanwhile, on the Jets side, you got Justin Fields, Breece Hall, this running game, pretty decent. But their play on Monday night was some of the sloppiest football I have ever seen. I expected Aaron Glenn to kind of clean things up. Aaron Glenn coming from my Detroit Lions. He thought there'd be more discipline there in New York. So many penalties, turnovers. They were horrible. I think they lost 3 fumbles and committed like 100 penalties. They were awful. So that doesn't fix itself overnight, guys. If you guys are familiar with how penalties work, that normally plays out on a continual basis, at least for like 8 to 10 weeks. Because that's a tough thing to fix because there's a lot that goes into that. So I think once again, I think that you might see the Jets play sloppy here. I'm not going to trust their defense. I'm going to take the Cowboys minus 2.5. I really like them to win this game. And I also do like that over 46.5 points. Reality is, it's also for the Cowboys defense. I didn't say this, but their defense is also trash. Let's just be honest. They're also bad as well. They gave up 40 to the Packers. They've been bad all season. So both defenses stink. And I think the Jets could still move the ball. If they avoid the fumbles, by the way, the over would have hit easily on Monday night. We ended up cashing our over on that game. But it was very much in jeopardy just because of the turnovers and the penalties. So the Jets could at least clean up the fumbles a little bit. I think obviously the over will hit easy. So give me Cowboys minus 2.5 and the over 46.5. Next game on tap, we got the Denver Broncos traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles are 4.5 point favorites in this one. Total set to 44.5 points. So the Eagles, guys, believe it or not, they're 4-0, right? But they're averaging like 250 yards a game. I was listening to a podcast last night that was talking about they're the first team since like before World War II to average like 250 yards a game and be 4-0. That's like the first time that's happened in a very long time. So offensively, they're obviously having struggles. Barkley is not getting the yards per carry that he was last year. He's was averaging less than 4 yards per carry. So obviously the run game, it's been a struggle. A.J. Brown is posting weird tweets, saying, what was his line? He said, if they're not listening to you, shrug your shoulders and walk away. And I'm like, bro, you guys are 4-0 though. Like, I mean, I get the frustration, but dude also had 9 targets last week. And he's obviously it's typical wide receiver stuff. That happens a lot with wide receivers. So here, obviously not having a lot of trust with the Eagles offensively. Somehow they're still winning games and they're still putting up points. But here versus a great Broncos defense, obviously going to be more of a struggle here. Like I said, total set to 44.5. And we saw the Broncos actually find themselves a little bit there on Monday night, right? Broncos finally got Bo Nix going. The running game looked great. Granted, it was versus the Bengals, but sometimes you need that confidence boost. I really like some of the things I saw from Bo Nix on Monday night. So given all that, guys, I am going to take the Broncos and the points here. I think that's the easiest bet of the week for me. Broncos plus 4.5. And, both these defenses obviously are pretty good. So I'm going to rock that under 44.5 points. I think we'll see a little bit more of a struggle here. But it will be a close game. And I could easily see the Broncos win this game. But do like that under 44.5 as well. Give me Broncos plus 4.5 and the under 44.5 points. Next game we have on tap, we have the Tennessee Titans traveling to Arizona and take on the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals 9-point favorites in this one. Total here is set to 41.5. So obviously the Titans coming in, a lot of sound bites in the press conferences where Cam Ward's saying a lot of crazy stuff. Even their coach is saying crazy stuff. They're 0-4. They look like the worst team in NFL history right now. They can't score. They can't defend. They can't do nothing. The defense stinks. Their offense stinks. It's just all bad. And they're taking on a Cardinals team, which also has not looked particularly great this season. The Cardinals offensively are near the bottom of the league in total yards, and that as well. Their defense has been pretty good. We did see the Cardinals come alive a bit last week, though. Particularly, I was paying attention to Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. That was really the connection that you had to see make some hay and start to turn things here for the Cardinals a bit. They have to get on the same page and they have to play well, obviously, for them to win. Obviously, James Conner getting injured isn't great for them. Trey Benson looks like a guy that could certainly fill in. So here at home, I am going to rock the Cardinals -9. I can't take the Titans on any bet right now, unless maybe it's like plus 20.5 maybe. I could take the Titans, and even then I'd have to think about it. The Titans are that bad right now. We faded them obviously last week to perfection. We said Texans -7.5 and the under 38.5, and those both hit easily, which is pretty wild when you think about it, because taking that many points for a team to cover and the under means you really think the Titans are going to do bad. And they did. They laid a goose egg. They didn't even score. So that's the issue. Do the Titans even score on this one? I don't know, guys. I could see them not scoring in this one again. So, with all that said, guys, I think once again, we're going to see a repeat of what we had last week. I think we'll see the Cardinals -9 and give me the under 41.5 points. I think the Titans are going to really have a hard time. And I really like the Cardinals to cover 9 and the under 41.5 here, guys. Okay, next game, we got the Tampa Bay Bucs traveling up to Seattle to take on the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks are 3.5-point favorites here. The total here is set to 44.5. So, storylines here, the Bucs get a little bit healthier there on the offensive line, getting Morse back, so that's obviously very big for them. Seahawks coming in with a very highly touted defense, and they played very well once again there versus Arizona in the road win there. Their defense has really been the story of the season. Sam Darnold also, to me, has looked phenomenal, especially his last couple of starts. Darnold looks like he did last year in Minnesota for much of that season, where he led the Vikings to a 14-3 mark. I do like what we've seen out of Seattle. Obviously, between Sam Darnold, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, the running game is really yet to get going. But the passing game has looked good, and their defenses look good. But there's some reality here. The Seahawks have not defended their home field very well. I believe they've actually lost 7 of the last 8 home games. Or was it either 7 of 8 or 7 of 9 dating back to last season? They have not defended home field well at all. They've been terrific on the road. They've been terrible at home. So the question is, Baker Mayfield comes in here to Seattle. Offensive line getting a little bit healthier. I think that really bodes well for Baker. And there's definitely a feeling within my gut that says the Bucs come out and actually win this game. So with that being said, I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Bucs, the plus 3.5. I love that line on them. And I'm going to rock the over 44.5 points. I think Baker is just on another level right now. He's certainly in the upper echelon at quarterback. He just makes play after play, and it has been so much fun to watch him play football. And even more so, you could say on the road. We saw him on the road versus the Texans making plays in that one. We saw him on the road versus Atlanta. Same thing. Obviously, last week versus Philly was a tough game. They didn't play well as a team down there. But like I said, the last couple weeks, I kind of have to put a little bit of an asterisk just because of the injury problems on the offensive line. They finally get a little bit more stability this week, which I think will help them out a lot. They're ranked, right now they're about 5th or 6th in the power rankings. So teams really do. A lot of people do believe in the Bucs, and I'm one of those people. I think the Bucs show up today and at least keep this close at the very least. And I think we'll see some offense though in this one between Darnold in the passing game and Baker in the passing game. I love two quarterbacks that can air it out and make big plays. That usually bodes well for an over. So give me the Bucs plus 3.5 and the over 44.5 points here. Next game, we got the Detroit Lions traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Bengals are 9.5-point dogs in this one. This line is moving very much in favor of the Lions. It might be more than that now as I record this. This is what it is on Pool Host, though. Total set to 49.5. So what's going to happen in this game? You're going to see a lot of offense. You're going to see a lot of offense from the Lions. I can almost guarantee that. This Bengals defense has not been playing very well. The defense has had a lot of trouble this season. Just like they did last season. They're starting to look like that defense again. I had hope for them after week 1, but then I was like, you know what? They played the Browns, so we have to chill a little bit with that. And then ever since then, their defenses look like last year's defense. They look terrible. So the question is, what happens in this one? Pretty big spread. I think this is our biggest spread of the week. So that is, and the Bengals are returning home. So you got to keep in mind the Bengals been out on the road the last couple weeks. The last time we saw the Bengals at home, they did win 27-24 over Jacksonville. That was the game Burrow got hurt, but Browning played a bunch in that one. So what happens? Obviously, the vibes right now in Cincinnati aren't great. You saw Jamar Chase chirping on the sideline. It wasn't anything bad. He's got, for what it's worth, I think he's got a right to chirp. You got to throw him the football, for starters. But here in this spot, guys, I am going to take the Lions minus 9.5. They're just that much better. I mean, they are. I have to take the Lions here. I can't trust the Bengals to cover the Lions. Offensively and defensively are just superior to the Bengals in just about every single way, at every single position. They are They are that much better at this point. And the Lions have figured their season out, right? After a tough week 1 loss, they've won 3 straight, and they've looked pretty dominant the last couple weeks. Really won, obviously going away there versus Cleveland, but even on Monday Night Football versus the Ravens, they look fantastic. They won going away versus the Bears. So I think, again, you're going to see the Lions blow the Bengals out. And the question is how many points do they score? Because we kind of got to factor the total here, too. So I am going to take the under 49.5 points because I can't take the Lions to score 50. That's just a little too crazy. They could, but I can't project that. I think the Bengals offense, we've seen what we need to see. What do they score? 13 points over the last 2 weeks. So if we give them a touchdown, that means we can have the Lions put up 42 and still hit the under. So that's why I have to take the under, guys. I think the under will hit. I'll take the Lions minus 9.5 and the under 49.5 points here. Okay, next game on tap. We got the Washington Commanders traveling to Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium to take on the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers are 2.5-point favorites as of right now. Total is set to 47.5. I say right now because we're not exactly sure about the Jaden Daniels Mariota situation. It's looking like Daniels is going to play. It looks like we'll have Jaden Daniels back for this game. It's interesting, though. I feel like as a Commanders fan, you really don't want to rush this guy back. This isn't the type of thing you want to mess around with. He's a dual threat quarterback, and I think you have to be very cautious here if you're the Commanders. We've already seen a situation like this play out in Washington with RG3. Very similar type of thing. And especially when you're messing around with the knee, that is not something to mess with. So we'll see what happens, but I think this is a spot where regardless of who's playing quarterback for the Commanders, I think Jaden Daniels' run package should be somewhat limited, right? You're not going to want to run him 100 times in this game with that banged up knee. So Chargers coming back home after a tough loss on the road to the Giants. We got some injuries piling up on the offensive line now for the Chargers. So the question is can the Chargers overcome that here coming back home? Just 2.5-point favorites. I think here I really have to lean heavy on the home team just because the Chargers have been so good up until that Giants game. I know they have some injuries now, but even still, Herbert has enough mobility to kind of compensate for that. The Giants front can be very tough. Here for the Commanders, it's a little bit of a different story. We just saw Michael Penix Jr. kind of have his way versus that Commanders team. And Bijan Robinson for that matter. So I'm not too worried about the Commanders up front, especially on the road. I think Herbert will get back on track. I think the Chargers will get back on track as well. I do think because of some of the injury situations, though, we could see points be somewhat limited here. Just given the Jaden Daniels situation, I think the Commander is going to have some trouble offensively if he's not at full health. Even if he plays, but if he's not at full health, Chargers defense is pretty good. They played pretty good this season. They're really across the board. I've been impressed with them defensively. Between Derwin James and what they're doing there in the secondary, and obviously this defense up front, they really kind of, after they allowed Jackson Dart to get that rushing touchdown and stuff like that, their defense definitely settled down a lot more later in that game. Dart's final numbers weren't that great. So I do like the Chargers minus 2.5 in this one, guys. I'll take them to win and cover, and I will take that under 47.5 points. I think the under here hits as well. Okay, in our next game, Sunday Night Football, we have the New England Patriots traveling up to Buffalo on Sunday night to take on the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills right now 7.5-point favorites, total set to 49.5. This line has moved very much in favor of the Patriots. So I believe this opened up at either 8.5 or 9, and the line now has moved to 7.5. And I think that's somewhat justified, given how the Bills played last week versus the Saints. We took the Bills last week to cover versus the Saints because we're like, oh, the Saints are terrible. The Bills are that much better. And then we watched the game and we thought, wow, the Saints might actually win this game straight up. They had a really good chance to win. They were in that game pretty much throughout until late. The Bills pulled away a little bit. But yeah, the Bills have certainly had their problems defensively. I can't ignore that. They looked all right versus the Jets, but that was versus a backup quarterback. Outside of that, they struggled a bit versus Miami. Week 1, obviously, they allowed 40 to the Ravens. And last week versus the Saints, Rattler was moving the ball. The Saints were having a lot more offensive success than I thought they would, so I can't ignore that, guys. And meanwhile, for the Patriots, if you're looking at their offense, they looked fantastic last week. May looks like he's getting better by the week. This offense is looking better by the week. Even their defense is looking better by the week. So, got to give them some credit here. I got to give the Patriots some credit. And for the Buffalo Bills, like I said, I think they're 4-0, and I think, I don't know if it's an effort problem. They have a lot of players that were suspended on the defensive line, which they're not getting back this week. They should be getting back next week in week 6. So I think the Patriots' run game will be able to have success. I think Drake May continues to kind of play well. We kind of saw this play out last season. The Patriots played the Bills very well up in Buffalo. So I think that's what we're in store for here. I think the Patriots hang around here. I'm not saying they win, but 7.5 still feels like a lot. I think the Patriots can hang in there and keep this game close. Right now, I just don't know how much the Bills are getting up for games like this right now. They're going to be playing KC in a couple weeks. Obviously, they've played a couple of very, they played the Saints, they played the even the Dolphins, the Jets, all these teams that are like, I think they're just, I don't know if they're getting up for these games. And versus the Patriots, same type of thing. I'm not sure they're going to get up for this one. I can't trust them to, even on Sunday Night Football. So I am going to take the Patriots plus the 7.5, and I'm going to rock the over 49.5 points. And the Bills are going to score. No doubt in my mind, I think the Bills are going to score 30 points. You can put that in stone. But I think the Patriots are going to score, 24 plus points as well. I think this Bills defense is going to struggle. I really do. I think you'll see them get a little bit exposed here on Sunday night. And we're going to have to talk about that. But give me the Patriots plus the 7.5 and the over 49.5 points here, guys. And finally, our last game, we got the Kansas City Chiefs traveling down to Jacksonville to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars are 3.5-point dogs. Total here set to 45.5. So this last game is a doozy, guys, right? This should be a great game. This should be a lot of fun. Jaguars picking up a lot of momentum here early season at 3-1. Really with a strong start to the year. A big road win in San Francisco. Defense stepped up, forced a few turnovers there. Held Brock Purdy down. The running game looked great. Lawrence has looked decent. So obviously you gotta like what you see from Jacksonville. On the Chiefs side, they finally got right last week as well. The Chiefs winning at home in blowout fashion there versus the Baltimore Ravens, the depleted Baltimore Ravens. But the offense for the Chiefs looked a lot like the offense is supposed to look, right? Xavier Worthy came back last week, and he made a huge difference in that offense. The running game looked solid enough. Not the greatest, but they looked all right. And the passing game was very much there. They were getting players in space. They were doing Kansas City-like things. Now, the story between both these teams to me, they both played teams that were depleted. So you got to take that into account for both teams. Chiefs played a Ravens team that was down 6 defensive starters. And Lamar Jackson obviously left the game. I don't really count that because the game was out of hand when he left anyway. But yeah, the Ravens defense is depleted. Meanwhile, for the 49ers, their defense is also somewhat depleted with the loss of Nick Bosa. And their offense is depleted too, with the losses of all their wide receivers, Pearsall, Ayuk. You go on down the line. So what's for real here? What actually passed the eye test? I think the Chiefs passed the eye test to me. The Jaguars got a couple of turnovers, which I don't think you can ever rely on turnovers as a metric for how good a team is. Because you can't rely on forcing those turnovers every week. Those are somewhat luck-based, right? There's teams that are better than others at forcing them. But if the other team does their job and secures the football, you're not going to get those turnovers. So I think here in the spot, I like more what I saw from the Chiefs, and you could trust the Chiefs, right? Mahomes is 5-0 versus the Jaguars. Mahomes, threw 4 touchdowns last week. So he's back on track. This offense is back on track, and I think we'll see it continue here in Jacksonville. This is still kind of a must-win game for the Chiefs. They need to get back on track here. They're still only 2-2. For the Jags, this isn't a must-win game. They're 3-1. They'll drop to 3-2. there in the AFC South. But I think the Chiefs cover the -3.5. On a lot of books, this is actually -3, so take your best line. 3.5 is what it is on pool, so I will still lay the -3.5 on the Chiefs. And I'm going to rock the over 45.5. I think both these offenses will get after it. Lawrence and Etienne and them guys. I think Jacksonville's got a good team. This is really no knock against them. But I think you'll see the Chiefs have a lot of offensive success. I still think there's a lot of problems with that Jaguars defense. At the end of the day, the Niners still put up 21 points. And the thing is like they had virtually nobody. None of their normal starters. So I can't put too much stock here on the Jags defense. And, you know, they were giving up yards to Browning earlier up in Cincinnati. So can't give too much credit to this Jags defense. So give me the Chiefs -3.5 and the over 45.5 points. All right, guys, that is it for our games. If you guys enjoyed the content, as always, make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe. Keep in mind, we only got 14 games this week because 4 teams are on a bye. So bye weeks finally started this week. So just keep that in mind going forward. We'll probably just be less games. We're used to having 16 here to open the season. We're going to be having probably 13 or 14 a week now. So, yeah, guys, super excited for this week. Should be a lot of fun. We got a lot of good games on, a lot of interesting storylines. And I'm really looking at that Chiefs-Jaguars game and the Broncos-Eagles game. I think those are the 2 games of the week that I'm really paying attention to. Oh, and the Bucs-Seahawks. Bucs-Seahawks should be a really good one. So there's a lot of good games on tap this week. And hopefully, obviously, we can make some money. As always, make sure you guys are checking out what's going on around the channel. We have a lot of content, a lot of videos. We cover Major League Baseball, NFL. We got NBA starting up soon, which is our primary sport. That's where we've made a lot of hay in years past. So keep that all in mind. Outside of that, guys, drop your favorite pick below. Outside of that will do it for me. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch you guys all next time. Peace out.